Global politics used to be a game of chess, but these days it's more like high-stakes poker, where even the smallest nations are forced to bluff their way through unprecedented diplomatic challenges.
That's such an interesting way to frame it. And there's no better example than what's happening with the Cook Islands right now. This tiny Pacific paradise suddenly making waves by pursuing investment deals with China despite their long-standing security arrangement with New Zealand.
You know what's fascinating about this? It perfectly illustrates how countries are being forced into one of three paths: become an American vassal state, align with China and Russia, or try to maintain this incredibly delicate balancing act.
Kind of like those medieval kingdoms trying to survive between competing empires, isn't it?
Exactly. And some of these diplomatic maneuvers are wild. Take Vietnam's premier, who's literally offering to spend entire days playing golf with Trump at Mar-a-Lago while simultaneously promising to buy up to 100 American planes. All because they're sitting on the third largest U.S. trade surplus and trying to avoid becoming the next target.
Well, that's quite different from what Japan's doing, though their approach is just as calculated.
Oh, you know what's really interesting about Japan? They're going all in on what economists are calling the tribute strategy, promising $1 trillion in U.S. investments, massive natural gas purchases, and there's even talk about them strengthening the yen just to stay in America's good graces.
So what happens when countries decide not to play this game of appeasement?
Well, look at Nicaragua. They're taking the complete opposite approach by changing their constitution to allow for a new canal that could compete with Panama. It's a direct challenge to U.S. influence in the region and a clear signal they're aligning with China.
That's quite a bold move in today's political climate.
And here's what makes this whole situation so unprecedented. No one can actually price peace anymore. The Global Capital Allocation Project has been tracking this, showing how countries are scrambling to diversify their economic relationships just to maintain some sense of security.
You know, that reminds me of that old Bukharan proverb you mentioned earlier about bowing to the ruler while going your own way.
Exactly. And what's really ironic is that Trump's aggressive approach might actually be undermining America's influence. The more unpredictable U.S. policy becomes, the more other countries are quietly building alternative relationships and systems.
Like how trade between non-U.S. countries is actually increasing despite all this tension.
Precisely. And get this, supply chains are becoming more complex and expensive, but countries are willing to pay that premium just to reduce their dependence on any single power. It's like watching a global game of risk management play out in real time.
That must be creating some interesting diplomatic dynamics for smaller nations.
Oh, absolutely fascinating. These smaller countries are becoming incredibly sophisticated in their approach. The Cook Islands, for instance, are managing to balance their traditional Western security relationships while opening up to Chinese investment. It's like watching a masterclass in diplomatic juggling.
And all of this is happening while most people are just thinking about these places as vacation destinations.
That's what makes this so remarkable. Beneath those pristine Pacific waters and tourist attractions, there's this intricate web of international relations being carefully woven. And you know what? This might just be the new normal for international relations. Smile for the cameras, make the right noises, but always, always keep your options open.
Well, at least the tourists still get their beautiful beaches while the world figures itself out.
Yeah. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. This new world order we're seeing emerge, it's fundamentally reshaping how countries interact, and I don't think we can go back to the simpler diplomatic relationships of the past century. We're watching the birth of a new kind of international relations, where every nation, no matter how small, has to become an expert at playing multiple sides.